Harp's house. In your eardrum. Man, wherever you want me to be.
You're now listening
to Harp's house. Welcome everyone to Harp's house. I'm your host, Jonathan Harper, and we are back at it again with relationship expert, my co-host, Dr. Allie Hicks. Now, if this is your first time stopping by the crib, this is like her third time being on the show, and we talk about everything from love and relationships to make sure you get it in and do it the right way. So make sure you stop by some of those old episodes of Harp's House and get some food for thought on many of the hurdles in some of your relationships. Now, on tonight's show, we're going to dive right into the battle that professional athletes and entertainers seem to experience a lot. Now, that's how to deal with women who are constantly throwing themselves at them and on their neck. Now, this may be an issue that, many people may experience, but tonight we're going to focus on men of color. But we all know that people like Justin Bieber, Leonardo DiCaprio, and even Justin Timberlake before he got hitched experienced this problem as well. But tonight we're going to, again, focus on the brothers. And one brother in particular, because he has a banging new album out. That's Trey Songz. And he has a banging album called Tremaine the Album. Now, Trey has a song that specifically talks about this type of issue, and it's called Playboy. Now, Dr. Allie, what's your take on why so many real fly brothers like Trey seem to have issues with finding that one special woman?
I think it comes down to three things. And everybody, please pardon my voice. I've been a little under the weather, so we're talking about some sexy issues, and I'm going to be sounding a little sexy tonight, okay?
And we're going to take a few breaks about every 5 minutes to give her kind of a cough break. So go ahead, let's get after it.
Just how dedicated I am to Harp's house.
Exactly.
All right. But so I break it down to three things. One is values, opportunity is the second, and the third is actually the relationship and the value that you hold in the relationship. So when we talk about values, we're talking about permissiveness, sexual permissiveness. And studies show that if you're more sexually permissive, which means you're more open to different types of sex, you're more liberal when it comes to maybe having premarital sex, then you're actually 76% more likely to be okay with the idea of cheating.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
So, if you're someone who is sexually permissive, which is a person who's open sexually more, maybe you're active premaritally or something like that, then you're actually 76% more likely to be comfortable with the idea of having a premarital affair.
Wow. Okay.
Or an extramarital affair, not premarital. Gotcha. Extramarital affair. And so, people who tend to be more liberal actually tend to have more affairs. I'm a very liberal person. I do not consider myself someone who is interested in having an affair, but they do say that people who are more liberal religiously, ideologically, and who live in bigger cities actually tend to have values that support them being less loyal, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So that's one. All right, so the second one is opportunity, right? Obviously, a guy who's playing basketball for the Clippers has more opportunity to cheat than a guy who maybe is a barista, even though, in all honesty, baristas probably get it all the time. But
so you think the man at Starbucks is getting play?
I mean, they interact with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis. Like, maybe I should say a computer technician, people who work by themselves, who might not have a lot of contact with other people. But the more opportunity you have, obviously, the more likely you are to engage in an extramarital affair.
That's fair.
And then the third one, which is just the relationship. So are you in a relationship that's unfulfilling, a relationship where you maybe don't respect the person that you're with, maybe a relationship where there's been some type of trauma or damage in that relationship early on? And so those are kind of like the three things that will absolutely destroy a relationship and that can cause people to cheat and make it more likely that people cheat.
But what about like you said, if a guy if he feels like, you know what, I just don't really want to settle down because, like you said, I have so many of these opportunities. Why would I settle down with one woman? What would make me want to do that?
Well, see, and I think that's all to kind of like a person's personal decision and personal choices. And you know me, I always take everything back to kind of the initial injury that Black men and women have had. And I think that a lot of it comes back to this. It's kind of like, it's like this relationship FOMO. You know, you're afraid that you're missing out on something better. And like, is there a better pussy over there? Is there a better pussy over here? Am I missing something? And I think that also takes a level of maturity to realize that really you're not. Like, if you found something that's worthwhile, like, commit to it, lock in on it. But right. I think that there's a lot of people who are running around who haven't had an opportunity to really look inward at themselves and really learn themselves. And so we have kind of a lot of, I guess I could say, like, man children walking around wanting every flavor of ice cream, when really the goal of tasting ice cream is to figure out the one that you like.
Right. And I think the inverse of that is true as well, because like you said, some people are always looking for something else, saying, well, the grass might be greener, but at the same time, like some people, you don't want to settle as well. So what's like the fine line between settling in with somebody who you really, want to spend the rest of your life with, or you really want to be locked in with, versus thinking the grass is always greener? So when we come back on the other side of the break, I'll let you dive into that. Again, you're listening to Harp's House. We are back at Harp's House. I'm your host, Jonathan Harper, along with my trusty co-host, Dr. Allie Hicks. Now, Allie, on the other side of the break, I was talking about the prospect of, people always think that the grass is greener and always looking for another mate or somebody who's better than their current mate. But the flip side of that is you never want to settle. So how do you kind of find that sweet spot when you're in a relationship with somebody where you really know that this is where I need to be?
Well, on the other side of the break, I was talking a little bit about maturity and how important I think it is for people to really understand and know what their needs are versus their wants. And I think that if you're a person who hasn't really thought and hasn't really sat with yourself and meditated on what it is you need in a partner, those things that you cannot live without. Like, example, for me, communication is something that I need fundamentally from my partner. I need to know that we can talk about almost anything. I'm an open book, and so I need to know that my partner can handle that, because I couldn't live a life where I don't tell my partner almost everything, right? So that was something for me that was mandatory, which is something that will not be mandatory for the next person. Right. And that's fine. But I think that it comes down to you have to understand yourself, which is why it's so important to be alone, to get the opportunity to learn what kind of a person you are. And I think that too few of us really sit down and even know what it looks like to assess our values. Like, how do you assess what your values are as a person? And if you don't know what your values are, how are you going to know the values that you want in another person? And so I think that that's a huge part of the issue, is we have a lot of people walking around not knowing themselves, expecting somebody else to complete this mess.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha. All right, now I'm going to read some of the lyrics from one of Trey Songz' new album off Tremaine the Album. The song is, again, called Playboy. Now, you tell me what you think he's trying to say, and you can kind of interpret, I guess you would say, his language and read between the lines. So here we go. And again, I'm not a singer, and I'm not a rapper, so don't judge me. So he says, don't know why I'm still here, still kissing these girls that I don't love, still stumbling out of the club. Still, it's so hard to trust. I don't know why I'm still a playboy. And then he says, still running around trying to lay up, still fucking, but I want to make love. I really want to, but I just don't know how, because I'm still a playboy. What is he trying to say? Is he saying he wants to kind of get it right, or he likes this life?
It seems to me like he's saying he wants to get right. Like, he's looking for somebody. And like I said earlier, we need to stop looking for somebody else, and we need to look for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We need to be content with ourselves, and then we'll find somebody who reflects us.
And he also says,
that's what I think he's saying.
Go ahead. He also says, too many nights to remember, too many girls I can't count, can't keep track of all these adventures. What has become of me now? So do you think other men will hear that and say, like, man, he's living the life. Like, what an amazing life to wake up to random women in random places with all these adventures. But like you're saying, he's saying, like, yo, this has kind of run its course, and I'm looking for something different.
But what's interesting is at the same time, he is glorifying having multiple relationships, where he's kind of bragging like, oh yeah, I want to get it together, but there's just way too much pussy out there. I can't do it. Which to me, I think that kind of makes everything moot, because I also feel like people who brag about their sex lives don't have great sex lives.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. I think the people who do the most talking do the least interacting. Huh. So that's just me though, because I feel like you don't have to talk about it. If you got it, you got it. If you're confident, you're confident. You don't have to tell me how rich you are if you're Bill Gates. Bill Gates isn't going around telling everybody how rich he is.
Yeah, but Bill Gates also, he's not getting paid off being an R&B artist. This is his content. This is kind of what fuels his fire, and this is what people to pay.
And that's why I think none of it's real.
Okay,
I think it's contrived. It's his brand. He has a team of people who create a brand.
Wait, so you're saying what he's saying in this song you don't think is real?
No, I do not.
Wait, you're telling me that you don't think Trey Songz wakes up with like random women all around the world and is living a Playboy life?
Not necessarily. He could be a guy who might not really might not want that. I know musicians who talk about that stuff and aren't living that life. Not that they can't do it, but sometimes they don't want to.
Huh.
You know what I'm saying? I think that we love to fall into the hype of media and really believe that everything people are saying is real. And it's not. They have a team of people who construct this image so that they can sell albums.
So I get what you're saying, and that will come into like the notion of a studio thug and things like that. But for an R&B singer, okay, for instance, I'm gonna read one more little snippet. He's saying, "I'm feeling all kinds of pressure. My mama wants a grandchild. Can't say I'm not gonna make an effort, but these women keep calling me out. I guess I'm losing this battle. Oh, they're tripping. Why do these things feel so good?" So you think his mama really doesn't want a grandchild?
I don't know his mom. I have no idea. But I will say that did get me thinking when I was reading that earlier, just about the value system in the Black community. And that we value...
Talk about it.
We seem to value permissive sex, which is fine. Like, I'm all about free love. You know what I'm saying? Like, if everybody's down, do it. But also, we dilute the Black dollar by having all these children with women that we do not intend to stay connected to. Because you have to think, when you die, your money is going to go to your children, right? It's going to go to your dependent. So let's say you made $10 million over the course of your life and you saved that money up. That's your nest egg, or $100 million, whatever.
Right.
But you've had 32 children out of wedlock.
Right.
So your money, like, one of the prime reasons that these athletes go broke, that 60% of athletes go broke within 5 years of leaving the game, is because of the mess they've created with their children and the women they've dated, the divorces and all the child support. And so literally the Black dollar has just disappeared out of our community when we have these men who are smart and virile, and they could put this money together and they could do something to change their neighborhoods. But instead, it's going to all of these women that they couldn't control themselves with. They couldn't wear condoms with. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that, to me, it's so irresponsible. I understand sex feels great. And I think that also in the Black community, we have attached a man's manlyhood to how much sex he can have. And we have really limited our men by having their whole entire personhood be dangling between their legs. Right. And I think that it's limiting for men, and that men who want to do something else can't really be in love because their boys will call them corny. If they're like, yeah, I really love this girl, she's really great. They'll be like, man, you're corny. Like, why are you with one girl? Like, and we discourage things that are effective and that work.
Right. And
it's almost like misery wants company.
So what role does a woman play in this scenario, though?
Well, I think women need to stop trying to take other women's men. And I understand that, it might be tantalizing. You see a man that has money and this and that. But I think that we really need to engage in some girl code. And if he's in a relationship, you move on. Right. We shouldn't be snagging, people from other people. And then I also think that kind of the idea of being predatory in the way that you kind of stalk these men, I think that's just, to me, it's just creepy. Like, don't Google this guy's stats and figure out what his favorite club is so you can, hang out there and possibly see him, and what his favorite color is and what his favorite drink is. Come on.
The baller alert. They're game planning just like the player is the night before his game. It's real out here in these streets.
Sure are. Oh, it's so real. so real.
All right, well, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a step away, and we're going to let you get some water so you don't start coughing, and we'll be right back on the other side from Harp's house. We're back at Harp's house. Again, I'm your host, Jonathan Harper, again with Dr. Allie Hicks. Now, Dr. Allie, you told us on the other side of the break a few things that I've learned, and we all should have learned. A little food for thought. You do the dishes. You said brothers need to start wearing more condoms so they don't spread themselves too thin financially and spreading their seeds all over the place because, like you said, it hurts the black dollar, and you also said women have some of the blame as well because they need to stop stealing stop stealing men from other women. So what else you got to add to that?
Absolutely, and I think we do put a lot of responsibility on men, and I think that ultimately, we all have control of our own bodies. But I think that women, for us, there's limited resources. There's fewer men on the planet because female fetuses in utero are stronger than male fetuses because we have two X chromosomes, and you guys only have one.
Okay.
So more women end up being born because males tend to be a little weaker in utero.
Okay.
And so there's more women on the planet, which already has us competing for limited resources. And then we all know the stats on African American women in America and how we're dating less, we're getting married less, we're getting more educated, and then black men are dating, white women. And so we really need to be supporting each other and really being sisters with one another as opposed to competing for these limited resources. I know it's hard, and I know I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who's married. And so I don't want to sit here and dismiss somebody's legitimate frustration with being single, and how frustrating it can be as a black woman, because I was there. But I will say that we really need to be more conscientious and maybe even start working to build men up.
Right.
And if there's a man that we know has a lot of the qualities that we really want, being really positive with him. Like me and my girlfriends had a sit down. We were all engaged, or two of us were engaged and the rest of us were dating. And we just commiserated about the fact that we didn't know how to be kind to our men like our white girlfriends were kind to their men.
Oh, word?
Yeah, we did. And we all sat down and we were talking about ways that we could practice being kinder and less we got those edges.
Wait. Mm-hmm. Let me get this straight. So a group of sisters came together and came to the conclusion that they need to be kinder to the brothers like white women are to their men?
Well, a lot of our white girlfriends we noticed were they would say a lot of the same things that we would say, but they said them in different ways.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so we legitimately were how do we be kinder? I wanted to practice being nicer in delivering information, because sometimes you just say it, and it comes out the way it comes out.
So why do you think in general that maybe not in general, because I don't want to make a blanket statement that might offend anybody, but why does it come across at times that a black woman might be a little bit more prickly than a white woman in terms of communicating the same message?
It really, I don't hate to take it to slavery ever. I feel like slavery is the central issue in the black community, and it's the issue that we don't talk about, and it's something that has had years and years and years to dig in to our collective subconscious. Mm-hmm. And there's this new-ish disorder that was coined in 2005 called post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Okay.
And basically, slavery caused so much trauma. We are all well aware of the things that happened during slavery, but it caused so much trauma in our communities that we have a collective PTSD disorder. And a major part of the trauma was sexual, for men and for women. Women were sexualized by slave masters. We were sexualized by other slaves, forced to breed when we didn't want to breed. And then men were traded like cattle and bred like animals. The strongest ones were literally bred with multiple women. And so I think this is where we began to develop these contentions with one another, and where black men really began to develop that your worth exists in your pants. Wow. Because that's the worth that they placed on you. They told you, you're strong, you're a mandingo, you are good for sex. That's what you're good for. And then they told black women, you're good for sex, and we love you in private, but we don't love you in public. In public, we tell you you're ugly. In public, we tell you you're loud. In public, we tell you you're all these other things. But in private, we're in your room. We're in your house. We're coming and we're taking what we want from you. Women can't always be open is because we've always had to be strong. And a lot of the times you learn that being strong wasn't necessarily being nice. Right. Because if someone's coming to rape you, you can't be like, okay, sweetie, I don't, you got to be harsh. And you got to tell them, if someone's coming into your house in the middle of the night and your man is gone because he's in jail and you got 3 kids and someone's trying to rob you, you can't be sweet to him. Right. You can't be sweet and nice. And I think it's really cute that white girls get to be nice because they've lived lives that have allowed them to be nice.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that has to play into it too. They don't have some of the same pitfalls and hurdles that women of color have to jump over and deal with.
Exactly. You know, and I've had a privileged life, so in all honesty, I shouldn't be mean at all. But but I think culturally, there's just, no matter where you are, no matter where you grew up, as a black person, you're a black person.
Right.
Every time you walk into a room, you're a black person. Doesn't matter if you're a black person with $20 million in your bank account or 20 cents in your bank account, you're still black. You know, and so I think that this plays a huge, huge part in why African-American women don't take a lot of stuff. Because historically, we've been given so much stuff. You know, when you guys were being reinforced for how sexual and virile you were, we were being reinforced for how sexual and disgusting we were. You know, and so we kind of like drew into ourselves where you guys got to be outward and got to be sexual and got to do all of these things because that's what they told you were valued for. And so I think that it really comes down to the point where we need to talk about these things more. We need to have therapy. When I see patients in my private practice, in the private practice where I work, that have trauma, the first thing you do with somebody who's experienced trauma is you have to talk about it in great detail as much as possible. Because the more you externalize trauma, the easier it is to process it. The less you talk about it, the worse it gets.
Gotcha. Wow.
And collectively, we're not talking about our trauma. We're finally getting to a point where we're talking about it, but a lot of times we like to minimize, and then we have things like this where now we're not dating each other, we're cheating on each other, we're hurting each other, when really, in all honesty, brothers, we're the ones who get you. And sisters, they're the ones who are strong enough to support us.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, to really be there for a black woman, you got to be really strong.
Right.
You know, and so it's like we need to be with each other and stop being against each other.
That's real. Well, I respect it. We've covered a whole lot of bases tonight. We went from Trey Songz to professional athletes to slavery to holding it down.
Hold it down.
Ain't nothing like Harp's house. Don't let nobody tell you different. Now, Dr. Alley, before we go, give us all your social media contact information so folks here at Harp's house can follow you and big up you and like your photos and all that kind of stuff for the gram.
Yes, hit me up, AllisonHicks.com. That's ALLYCINHICKS. And you can also find me at Allison Hicks on Instagram and Dr. Alley on Twitter. Sounds
good. Now, again, thanks everybody for tuning in to another special episode of Harp's House. I know it was a lot to process, but that's what it's meant to be. It's here to make you think and take your conversation to the next level at work and at home. Again, be sure to subscribe to Harp's House in the podcast section in iTunes or in the Google Play Store. Also follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. That's I am Harper. And check out the website as well. That's harpshouse.com. And feel free to email me at harpshouse1@gmail.com with any of your comments, suggestions, concerns, big ups, your feedback. It's all greatly appreciated. And again, I thank you for finding the time in your day, on your way to work or home or anywhere else to listen to Harp's House. Thanks again, and God bless.